So today I just want to give a book talk on Watch Us Rise, and it's by Renee Watson and also Elaine Hagen. They co-wrote this together. And I've read a few books by Renee Watson. I haven't read anything by Elaine Hagen. And I'm like a huge fan of Renee Watson. I think her books are really well written and interesting. And, they show a slice of African American characters that are, they really break stereotypes. And so I like this book a lot. It came out in February 2019. I found this one though harder to read. It not just terms in length, like lengthwise, it's about 380 pages, but I think because there's two authors, and each of them are writing from different characters' point of views. There's just a lot of characters to keep track of. And because each person's writing from that character's point of view. And so there's sort of like this group of friends. I think there's at least four of them. And so you get stories from each of the four from their perspective. And then their stories kind of intersect a little bit. And I found Jasmine's story to be the most compelling. And I almost wish the whole book was just about her. And that the other characters were more secondary characters for her own story versus there's, almost three dominant characters, if not more. And, the stories are all kind of fighting for dominance, if that makes sense. And so Jasmine's story is, she is like a plus size girl, and so like you get that perspective, but she's also a talented writer. I read this a while ago, so I'm trying to remember it. But there's also a boy that has a massive crush on her, that they're all friends with, and so but that romance doesn't seem to be. He's a little bit hesitant to try to push it in that direction towards romance. And then they have two friends who start a feminist club, and then that feminist club does a lot of important work at the high school, so much so that it gets like censored by the principal, and they sort of get in trouble for it, even though they really did nothing wrong. And in that respect, like to me, like that was totally like my high school experience, and that's totally true to high school. And I found that story also really interesting, but I think just having it all, maybe for me, I just had trouble keeping track of everybody, especially because it goes it's first person to first person, and so I would read about this next character, a different female character, and then I would sort of forget, like, which one was she again? Like, what does she look like again? Like, what nationality, like, what ethnicity is she, and what was she all about again? Because they do give you that details the first time they introduce her, but then there's just, so many being introduced. I was like, which one is she again? But still, I think it's worth reading because, I mean, honestly, anything Renee Watson writes, I would be willing to read. And so, yeah, I would recommend it for readers who are enthusiastic reading for pleasure, who want, who want to read about a high school kind of, taking on administration, independence. And there's also some the sub story for Jasmine is also there's her father's very ill, and so we sort of see that play out in the book. So there's, I guess I would say there's a lot of pages, there's a lot of characters, there's a lot going on, there's a lot of interesting storylines going on. And so the trick is to be the kind of reader who likes to keep track of all of that and is able to keep track of all of that. For me, it was a little bit too much for me, but maybe if I read it a second time, I would have understood it better. Okay, thanks.